that's my cue to exit, albeit temporarily. I'll be back with the next one, but for now, Jitin sir, it's all yours.
Thank you. So we have a good group today, and you know, the topic is also very important, but it's the end of the evening, so I thought I'll make it a little fun to start with a share. It says ki, as you know, AI is going to be, is predicted to hit every industry, 40% of the job, so it's going to be everywhere. So एक शेर है गालिब का कि जाहिद शराब पीने दे मस्जिद में बैठकर या ऐसी जगह बता जहां खुदा ना हो. So as we move forward in the era of AI, AI is going to be everywhere. So we have a short time today, but a panel which is really rich in use of AI and the different AI adaptation use cases. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, that we are already talking about 18% of the total work being automated by AI, 7% of the total world's GDP being affected by AI or being added by AI. So this is a great time to adapt. It's a time for early adapters to adapt and take this forward. And who better but this August panel to take this forward. We have representation from Microsoft. We have Dale, who's worked earlier with Amazon as well as with Swiggy as CTO. We have Lalit, and of course we have representation from a local startup, Chaupal, which has worked so much on vernacular OTT. So we'll talk about each of your use cases. So what we'll do is we'll start with about 3 to 4 minutes of use cases from each of you, starting with you, Vinayak. Just talk about your use cases at Microsoft for AI and, you know, your vision of perspective of what you see from, you know, from your end on how the industry is shaping.
Hi, my name is Vinayak Hegde. I am the CTO-in-Residence at Microsoft for Startups, and previously I worked with like various startups, been through the cycle, been a founder, been part of an acquisition, and also recently a company, Zoomcar, I was the CTO there and which went IPO. So I've been there to the full circle. Currently, as part of my role, we run the Microsoft for Startups platform. So if you go to startups.microsoft.com, you can apply for credits. There's technical and business advisory that you can avail of, as well as there's a go-to-market support. So, yeah, that would be really helpful. So as part of my job, I work closely with lots of startups around the world, including a lot of focus is there on the AI startups. So I'll talk about 2 use cases. One is, I would say, in the healthcare sector. So I work with a startup called 5C Network. And what they have done is they have built a co-pilot for healthcare professionals, especially radiologists. So typically when you go to a radiologist to get an MRI or an X-ray, there are certain procedures that you need to follow. The amount of radiation that needs to be given, the part of the body that needs to be scanned, so on and so forth. So certain protocols, right? So it actually helps plan, you know, how the X-ray or the MRI should be taken, and then it walks you through the analysis, right? So one of the tedious jobs of any kind of doctor, as anybody who has worked in healthcare knows, is writing the report, right? Like once you have done the diagnosis, writing the report. So it actually generates report in the format which doctors can consume with the proper language. And then the radiologist can, you know, look through it. So this is one of the many things that, you know, I have seen. Another one, a great startup that I worked with is called Get One Page. So typically anybody who's in sales knows, you know, when you prepare for a sales call, there's a lot of research you have to do on the prospect. You not only need to know about the product, you need to know about the company, the background of the person you're talking to. So what it does is, it has multiple connectors based on your past interactions with the startup, what product you're using. Also based on the, I would say, interactions, it actually tells you, oh, this person is from this university or is interested in maybe like sports. So that becomes like a conversation starter. And it actually guides you through the process. So it acts like a sidekick or a wingman for your sales process and can actually captures all of those notes. So these are, I think, a couple of the use cases that we have seen. Obviously, I think there are multiple we can hear from the other panelists as well. Yeah.
Yes, excellent. Thanks so much for this timely and quick introduction. You've seen so many use cases. As they say, hota hai shabo roz, tamasha mere aage. Dale, with you, you worked with Swiggy, you worked with Amazon. So please tell us about such a rich experience and how you've seen AI being implemented over the years in such important organizations.
Got it. First of all, I want to thank Ty and here Jitin for having me on this panel. Also want to thank everybody here. This is my first time in Punjab. I'm actually super excited to be here. I've been enjoying the hospitality and the food and the people I've met. So thank you so much for the time. I hope to come back to Chandigarh again. Quick introduction about myself. I have been associated with AI since 2007, back when I started at Amazon in US in Seattle. And at that time, AI was very much limited to search and recommendations. So it was a very small, I would say, deployment of AI. And over the last about now 15 years, I've seen AI expand because from Amazon, I led the Amazon AI India team, where we built out an India-focused team for AI deployments. The idea of the team was to focus on India-specific problems faced by Amazon.in. And after that, I joined Swiggy, where at Swiggy, over the last 5 years, we deployed AI across multiple use cases. I think the learning that I've had over the last so many years is that AI is a journey. AI is not this superpower that you can just drop on a business and solve it. AI is a journey, AI is a commitment that you have to have. For example, at Swiggy, are there any Swiggy customers here? Anybody? Okay. So one side Swiggy, one side Zomato. Okay. So the Swiggy side, both sides Swiggy and Zomato. Okay. So in Swiggy or Zomato, if you try to order from a restaurant, you may see that there is this delivery time that we show on the app, right? It says, ki 25 minutes mein aa jayega khana, right? So that time is basically something that in the background uses a lot of ML models. Because whenever you place the order, sometimes two things happen. One is the restaurant has to start preparing the food. Second is the driver has to drive to the restaurant and pick up the food and drive back. So what we are doing is using our ML, we are trying to calculate the exact time that it can take for both these activities to happen so that the food can reach you. And now if you think about Swiggy scale, there are 300,000 drivers across India in 500 cities where there are millions of orders happening. So at any point in time, you're trying to do these predictions millions of times per second. And so that's where something like AI comes in, where AI gives you the ability to say, I can be able to take the small startup that I have, which started in this case, Swiggy began in Bangalore, and I can take it to 500 cities in India, and I can take it to 300,000 drivers across India, and I can still operate because AI is taking over some of the complexity of my business. And so that job of now running the prediction, running the delivery promise is done by AI. But then, as I said, even within Swiggy, despite all the amount of effort we put in, we found that we were still not getting our promise right. We were still having problems with predicting the promise correctly. For example, sometimes the driver will stop to fill fuel, petrol. So suddenly the customer will say, "Acha, driver didn't move. Kya karna hai?" So then we will call the driver and driver will be like, "Nahi sir, petrol nahi gaadi mein, petrol bharwana hai." So that way your model also has to learn. And over time you realize that you have to put so much of effort. So for me, the biggest journey about AI is that AI is this real tool that can be used, but has to be invested, has to be constantly nurtured within companies.
Excellent. Thanks, Dale. This is great. You talked about how, it's not just like an implementation, but it's a journey. So for folks here, this journey needs to start soon, and productionizing a complex AI application is just not a straightforward task, but something which requires a multidisciplinary and a lot of work as you move forward. Lalit, So we'll come to you. You're here all the way from Dallas. Please talk to us about your specialized area where you're using AI, especially in the area of cybersecurity. That's a very interesting use case.
Absolutely. So first of all, big round of applause to this audience sitting at 6 p.m. listening to this heavy topic of AI. That itself is exemplary. So yes, I'm coming from Dallas, and as you mentioned, cybersecurity is my area of specialization. And I'll tell you right now, we talk about the use cases of AI. We all are using AI in some form or fashion in our day-to-day lives. Raise your hands like if you never use Siri, tell me this. Or have you not seen Netflix or other channels? Oh, you watch this movie? I think you will also like this movie. What do you think is happening behind the scene, how that is getting generated? These are some of the common applications of AI, which is already in our hands. Now, we talked about some in the retail food industry, in the healthcare. Cybersecurity is now a lead. In cyber, in fact, if you really look at, how many of you have heard the word deepfakes? So deepfakes is like very specialized at the bad actor usage. Now, on the good side, cybersecurity, we always like to protect our lines of defense, which means we're watching every single data flow, trying to find anomalies, suspicious behavior, and then finding anomalies and really creating that proactively. Now it's human or even standard methods, you can only do so much when gazillions of data is passing your eyes. AI helps curate that in a more efficient and effective manner, more proactively. More importantly, any layer of digitization, I'm pretty sure many of you are looking forward to do a self-driving cars very soon. Or maybe take a flight as a space tourism. How many of you are looking forward to smart healthcare? Smart cities. And these are real examples because you are going to be like consumer, not even consumer, you're going to start living in the digital. What do you think like our standard cybersecurity methods will be able to kind of ramp up? No. You will have to rely on this AI-enabled, machine learning-enabled, all this. Now, I'm not going to get to the technical nitty-gritties because we don't have to. The real essence is AI and all these enablers are a big fundamental and I would say even like a critical component of the new age digital.
Excellent. This is going to be, again, a big thing, getting a SOC 2 certification and getting the AI, having the, taking care of the bad actors. So any technology that you have, you really need to watch out for the bad things first and then move on to the good things. So talking about good things, Ujjwal, your work involves working on OTT, vernacular OTT platform, and lots of use cases of data, AI. So talk us through that. Seems to be a great application where we can start with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jitin, and thank you so much, Ty, for having me here and for organizing such a fantastic event. So we run Chaupal OTT. We're an OTT platform for regional languages. Prior to that, I was a strategy and management consultant at Bain & Company, wherein I worked with the digital practice in India, Middle East, and Africa. Coming to Chaupal, right? Like I said, the vision right from the beginning when Mr. Sandeep Bansal launched the platform was to provide the billion-plus people in India and abroad a platform to watch content in their mother tongue, in their own languages. And with that, today we have over 15 million unique users watching content across the world, literally in every country, and we have over 800 original productions and web series and movies in Haryanvi, Punjabi, and Bhojpuri. But coming more to the tech side of things, right? We're using tech. I'll try to talk a little bit about what's happening in the industry and trends that global giants and benchmarks like Netflix are following, and how we today as a regional platform based in Chandigarh are leveraging those tools and trying to follow those benchmarks in terms of creating a better user experience. So AI works in both ways. How it helps us as a platform do better as well and make our life easier, and how it ends up making the life of the user and a subscriber watching content better as well. On the first part, if you look at it, today when you upload a particular movie itself, First, there was a manual task of doing everything from putting tags and genres to actor names. Whenever there's a cigarette, you have to put a marker. When there's a drink being consumed, you have to put a liquor marker. Today, we, to a great extent, have the ability to automate this process, where you just upload a particular title, and a lot of it gets done by itself. Going forward, we're seeing technologies in localization, where dubbing doesn't need to be necessarily done through a rigorous and painful process, but you'll have particular software that won't even just dub the content, but everything from the way your lips are moving and the actions and the mannerisms can be dubbed into different languages with minimum effort, right? So right at the beginning, right, where do we start using AI? After 2 years of being in existence today, we have over 10 billion data points and events that we have in terms of our data bank. Like, what is an event? Every time you come to a platform, what you pause on, what you play, how long you watch a particular movie for, is something that we're able to track today. And with those data points, at the very primitive level, like Lalit mentioned, what we're able to do today is give you much better recommendation. I'm sure all of us, more than liking or disliking content, the problem today that everyone has is finding something worthwhile to watch, right? So how can we create a recommendation engine that can factor in your user behaviors, not from a superficial level of just genre, but individual user patterns, to make sure that even if you like a genre but not something within that genre, we'll be able to recommend something for you. How we do this now is a technique where we're leveraging graphic neural networks, wherein what we do is we create clusters wherein every single individual is a cluster in an overall 3D chart. And how closely a cluster is related tells us how we can treat a different set of users. What that does for a platform today as well is, right, you have to think about what content to create. You have to invest crores of rupees in creating a movie, right? The more information you have in terms of how people are reacting, what those similarities and dissimilarities are, you can create that much better content for that particular user. You can create that much better scenes, and the overall experience can be a lot better from a creator perspective. And obviously that translates into a lot better experience for the user as well.
Excellent. Maybe you could work on a Sora for Indian next TiECON. So now we talk about a very important subject that we've been discussing internally, is how do you build teams from a place like Mohali? AI teams is not just something that you can just assemble to out of college graduates, but you need to really work and build. So as we were discussing, we realized a lowest common multiple of what constitute a good team. How could you build it? How could you assemble those together? Vinayak, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think what is so unique about AI is, unlike the earlier revolutions like the internet, mobile, everyone has access to the internet, right? So everyone is at probably like the same starting line. Obviously, I think it takes a lot of capital and access to networks. So you can sit anywhere, and we were just talking before, right? There are people sitting in Indore, Bhopal, Chandigarh who are building teams. So multiple rules of thumb that I personally feel that you could do to build AI teams, right? And to hire people, I mean, maybe Dale can talk a little bit about building AI teams as well. But hiring people, what I found very useful is maybe go to colleges and have a lot of interns and see and select the best ones, and then you can actually offer them like full-time roles. And you'll be surprised by how smart some of these youngsters are, because they have access to a lot more than many of us did. Second one that I found it useful was basically looking at certain markers, right? For example, if somebody has volunteered, and done work outside of their job, that kind of shows resolve, and that has been like useful. And last but not the least, I think because of the internet, and there is a possibility to hire in other cities across the world also. So the remote is also a good way to actually grow your like AI team. So these are the other non-traditional ways in which you could hire.
Excellent. So multi-jurisdictional and multi-talented, and having different backgrounds.
Yeah, your candidate pool has expanded really fast, and
Sure.
because everyone is at the same starting line, everyone has the same amount of information. Obviously, it depends on how much ability you have. I think, as the CM said, how much effort can you put in, that can set you apart.
Sure. Dale, your experience, please, on this.
Yeah, so I'll actually borrow something that Vinayak had said before meetings. I think if you think about AI, there are 3 different layers to the stack. One is the models themselves, right? So you've heard of ChatGPT, or you hear about Llama, or some of these models that are being built by some of these very big research companies. And that's one layer. Second is you have the tools that are used to support building models and training your models, or what we call ML operations. And that's one layer. And then the third is the applications. The applications are essentially ML applications that use these models. For example, like you may have something which does travel recommendations, or you may have something that does medical science recommendations or financial recommendations. So I think when you're thinking about building your team, the first thing you should be thinking about is which part of the stack are you focusing on? So if you want to build new models, for example, if you're trying to build a new model to make it Indic language, India language LLM, then for that you may need PhDs who are experts in linguistic sciences, natural sciences. But if you are trying to build the second stack, where you're trying to build the technology to help people launch models, then for that you may need very strong engineers who are able to build highly scalable systems. And then if you're building for the third level, which is basically the application layer, there you really need very smart people who have good domain experience. For example, if I'm building a financial product that can help people invest better, I may need some engineers who understand enough about the models, but also have knowledge about finance to be able to train the model and build them. So I think it's very important to understand what kind of model you want to use, what kind of ML you want to use, and then go from there.
30 seconds each.
Sounds good. So I think they already touched on the technology side of the house and the skill set. What I would also like, so for the people who are really truly looking, hey, what's my next big thing as a startup idea, or really like trying to have this disruption of AI being applied? There are plenty of applications now. And not in just the cyber world we're talking about. Take healthcare as an example. How do you really kind of analyze and detect new disease, but applying AI models? Think of every industry has multitude of those use cases. So what use cases really apply that fits your bill and that builds your experience? Another important aspect, which I think not many should forget, is not about skills in-house. A lot of these things require very heavy and resourceful centers, the processing engines behind the scene. And individually, as far as we not have access to it. So collaboration with providers that are really providing those resource-intensive centers is going to be important, and find those ahead of time, which is equally important as just starting your teams, as well as starting the idea or building that.
Yeah.
Third, and the most important, make sure it applies. It brings value. Because just because apply technology doesn't mean it adds value.
Yes, thanks so much. That was 1 minute. But two things you forgot, computing, important research, and access to research. So university requirements are important for as well. So Ujjwal?
Just quickly, if I have to think about how to build a team, right? The idea of a global office. In one line, today, to run the tech of Chaupal, there's a front-end team based in Barcelona, there's a back-end team based in Warsaw, managed by a guy sitting in Gurgaon for a company running in Chandigarh. So the idea of a global office has never been more relevant. So don't restrict yourselves to the resources available here. Earlier, Vinayak had mentioned a very good point of finding good internships and apprentice programs. So that's it.
Sure, thanks so much. So one question we have time for, please, if anybody has a question. In the meanwhile, I can ask one question. You talked very much about a thing that's close to your heart, is guardrails for AI. You want to talk about that? Anybody? Guardrails for AI? And in the meanwhile, if anybody has a question, we'll have time for that. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Sure. We'll take the question as well as the guardrails question together. Please.
Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts. So my question is, whenever we talk about AI in general, the domain knowledge is always, the physics is always put at, one part of the corner. Although whenever I got a chance during my Rolls-Royce leadership days, so domain knowledge and the handshake with the AI, that only works. Otherwise, who is going to talk about interpretability? We talk about responsible AI. So I would like to know your thoughts about the domain knowledge and then make products and businesses around the AI. Yep.
Great question. Great question.
Let me take that and exemplify this, right? I'll tell you, like, think AI as an enabler, as a mechanism. It's not the ultimate goal. So when you think domain knowledge can come like in whether it's industry, whether it can be even the specialty. Specialty could be like, for example, being a doctor, like, in the medicine. It could be cybersecurity. You can have an AI, but unless you really apply, what are you really applying it for? For example, I talked about risk management or incident response, or even like deepfakes and how to really counter the deepfakes. You got to understand that, and then only you can apply the AI properly. Without that, it will not yield the results.
Yeah, I just want to also call out that this is actually a great opportunity for startups, because a startup that has built very deep domain knowledge in a certain domain can have an edge over a large company that is trying to use a generic model to solve the problem. For example, if some startup has gone deeply into understanding education and trying to understand what are the problems with mental health education for, say, teenagers, and with that knowledge you build a model, you'll be a lot more successful than a generic company like Amazon trying to launch a model on it.
Yeah. Can I make a quick tip? So if you're looking to build products, I'll tell you a quick rule of thumb. So take any domain, like I talked about a radiologist, find the most tedious part of the job, which is like thankless, right? Like in this case, it is writing the report. Find that part, see how you can automate a part, because even writing the report requires some amount of cognitive skill. But what that will do is, because it is the most tedious part, it will actually help you drive adoption, right? Because nobody wants to do that. Because fun, maybe for a doctor or lawyer, it's understanding the case and forming an opinion, but not writing the report. And I would say that, if you have to look at 10 activities that any professional does, find the one that is most tedious and see if AI can replace that.
Excellent, excellent. So in real world, as they say, every place is a world in itself. Har ja jahane digar hai, which is great. So that's on that note. Anything you want to add? On that note, thank you so much, gentlemen. Wish you a very happy journey towards this AI revolution. And thank you so much for joining in from TiE Chandigarh. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking us through AI in practice. And with that, I would request the company of Dr. Madhu Chitkara, Pro-Chancellor, Chitkara University, to felicitate our distinguished panel here. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Lalit Ahluwalia, founder, DigitalXForce, Dallas. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dale Vaz, founder, Arthia, ex-CTO, Swiggy, ex-director, Amazon. And Mr. Vinayak Hegde, CTO-in-Residence, Microsoft for Startups. And Mr. Ujjwal Mahajan, founder, Chaupal OTT. And every panel has got to have a fabulous moderator. So ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our moderator, Mr. Jitin Talwar, founder, XLScout, XLPAT. Thank you so much, everyone. And a group photograph is in order. Thank you so much, everyone. And with that, it's now time to move into a fascinating session. So let me start by saying this. बहुत अजीब हैं ये बंदिशें content creation की. बहुत अजीब हैं ये बंदिशें content creation की. ना वो कैद में रखते हैं और ना हम फरार होना चाहते हैं. I think such is the pull of content creation.